Abraham in the Bible versus Ibrahim in the Quran, father of two faiths. What if one of the most important figures in the Bible also turned out to be one of the most important figures in the Quran? Abraham in the Bible and Ibrahim in the Quran are clearly the same man, a patriarch, a believer, and a model of faith. He is honored in Judaism, he is central in Christianity, and in Islam he is one of the greatest prophets. But while both scriptures deeply respect him, they do not present his role in exactly the same way. And those differences matter. Welcome to Scripture versus Scripture, where we explore sacred texts with curiosity, clarity, and respect. This video isn't here to attack anyone's faith. It's here to help you understand the similarities, the differences, and why those differences matter. Before looking at the differences, it helps to understand why Abraham matters so much in both the Bible and the Quran. He is not just another name in sacred history. He stands near the beginning of a story about covenant, promise, descendants, sacrifice, obedience, and the meaning of true faith. His life becomes a turning point. Through Abraham, whole communities understand where they come from, what it means to trust God, and how faith is meant to shape a life. So when we compare Abraham in the Bible with Ibrahim in the Quran, we are not just comparing one man. We are comparing two ways of presenting covenant, submission, and the spiritual ancestry of entire faith traditions. So let's begin with the Bible. In the Bible, Abraham first appears as a man called out by God to leave his land and journey toward an unknown future. That calling is one of the most important moments in biblical history. God promises him land, descendants, and blessing, and tells him that through him all nations of the earth will be blessed. This immediately gives Abraham a unique place. He is not only a faithful individual, he becomes the beginning of a covenant story. In the biblical account, Abraham's faith is tested over time. He waits for the fulfillment of God's promises. He struggles with uncertainty. He and Sarah grow old while still longing for the son they were promised. Then Isaac is born, and the promise begins to take visible form. The Bible also places great weight on covenant signs and family line. Circumcision becomes a sign of the covenant between God and Abraham's descendants. This deeply connects Abraham to the future identity of Israel. One of the most dramatic moments in the biblical story is the test involving Isaac. Abraham is asked to offer his son, and his willingness to obey becomes one of the clearest expressions of trust in God. But in the end, the sacrifice does not go forward. A substitute is provided, and Abraham's obedience is remembered. So in the Bible, Abraham is presented as the father of a covenant people, a man of faith, promise, and obedience, and one of the great patriarchs of sacred history. Now let's look at the Quran. In the Quran, Ibrahim also stands as one of the greatest figures in sacred history. He is a prophet, a model believer, and a powerful example of pure devotion to God. Like the Bible, the Quran presents Ibrahim as a man of obedience and trust. But the Quran often places stronger emphasis on his rejection of idolatry and his role as a defender of pure monotheism. Again and again, Ibrahim is shown standing against false worship. He challenges his people, he questions idols, he refuses to follow inherited error simply because it is tradition. This gives his story a sharp moral and theological clarity. In the Quran, Ibrahim is also closely associated with submission to God. He is described as upright, devoted, and not among those who associate partners with God. That makes him a central model of what true faith looks like in Islam. Another major emphasis in the Quran is Ibrahim's connection to sacred foundations. He is linked with the Kaaba and with the spiritual ancestry of a community devoted to one God. His prayers, his obedience, and his willingness to surrender all become defining parts of his legacy. The sacrifice story is also deeply important in the Quran. The son is not named in the Quranic version, but the focus falls strongly on the willingness of both father and son to submit to God's command. This makes the event not only a test of Abraham, but a model of surrender and faith. So in the Quran, Ibrahim is presented as a prophet of pure monotheism, a destroyer of idols, a model of submission, and one of the clearest examples of faithful devotion in all of Scripture. Now let's bring the similarities and differences together. Both the Bible and the Quran honor Abraham deeply. Both present him as a man chosen by God. Both connect him to promise, obedience, descendants, and a dramatic test of faith. Both also place him near the center of sacred history. But the differences are just as important. In the Bible, Abraham is deeply tied to covenant, promise, and the ancestral story of Israel. His identity is strongly connected to land, descendants, and the unfolding biblical story of God's people. In the Quran, Ibrahim is also a chosen servant of God, but the emphasis often falls more strongly on pure monotheism, rejection of idolatry, and total submission to God. In the Bible, Abraham is especially remembered as the father of covenant people. In the Quran, Ibrahim is especially remembered as a model of pure faith and surrender before God. So while this is clearly the same man, the role he plays in each scripture is shaped by a different, larger message. Conclusion. So is Abraham in the Bible the same as Ibrahim in the Quran? Yes, and no. He is the same great patriarch, the same man of faith, and the same figure of obedience and promise. But the way his story is framed is not exactly the same. The Bible presents Abraham as the father of covenant, promise, and a people through whom blessing unfolds. The Quran presents Ibrahim as a prophet of pure monotheism, a destroyer of idols, and a lasting model of submission to God. Same man, different emphasis. If you enjoy respectful comparisons like this, subscribe to Scripture versus Scripture. Comment below, what should we compare next? Satan, heaven, or the end times in the Bible versus the Quran? Like the video if you want more episodes, and I'll see you in the next one.